Great. Good morning, everybody. I'm Meg Foley. I'm with the Board of Building Standards. I am the uh, Personnel and Education Coordinator. I'm the Professional Development Coordinator for the Board of Building Standards. Amy Jones is our certification specialist. And apparently I can't talk this morning, which is really unfortunate for a presentation. But together with Pam and Mike, we run all of the people and organization stuff at the Board of Building Standards. We run the certification project, building department certifications, education, and also assessments. Laura Borso does the yearly operational reports, and Laura and Rob are the investigators for BBS to make sure that everything is going on well. Today's presentation is focused on building departments, what they need to know about the new certification rules. I know this is a hot topic. I think we had about 250 people sign up for this seminar. So you all will be receiving certificates after the program is over. If you didn't register, go ahead and do your registration from the event page just so that we have your email to send you a certificate. All right, with that, let's get started. And we are going to do this where I'll present a slide and then I'm going to ask for questions, comments, or anything that people want to talk about. This slide presentation, if done straight through, is only 15 minutes, but I anticipate that we'll need the entire 2 hours to get through this. All right, so again, welcome and thank you for coming. Today, we are going to talk about our new certification rules. We'll give you an overview of the history of the development and the changes that are in the new rules. We will talk about the problem that the new rules were created to attempt to solve and our plan for solving it. We're going to be talking about how the new certification levels work, how building departments will need to adapt to the new certifications. And if you can mute yourself, that would be great. We'll be talking about conversion of current certifications to the new system and about the online certification portal. Questions so far? All right, here's a history of our development of these new rules. As you may know, our old certification rules existed in pretty much the same form with a few changes here and there from easily the early 2000s, maybe even earlier than that. And we noticed that we were hearing from everybody that departments could not find people. We were hearing from departments they were having just a really difficult time filling vacancies, and people were retiring faster than they could be replaced. As a result of what we were hearing, we convened a public meeting in March of 2022. A lot of you were there, and we opened the floor for everybody to discuss what they were seeing, the problems they were having. The board then formed a committee of the whole to work on this project and commissioned an ICC certification study, which was produced in summer of 23. From that study, which looked at trends nationwide over certification requirements and the like, we came up with a new idea, our new rule certifications scheme that we'll be talking about today primarily. We then engaged in rule development, took in a lot more stakeholder input, and the rules were final filed in October of 2024, and then final filed again in November of 2024 because there was a slight hiccup. Okay, I'm going to pause here and ask, are you having trouble hearing me?
No.
No,
Okay.
sounded good.
So then, if somebody is having trouble, there may be an issue on that person's end. But I will again request that everybody keep their mics muted unless they're taking an opportunity to speak, because we do get reverb if you are not using a headset setup and you have your sound on in your computer. All right. So, any questions about the steps we went through for development? Okay, moving on, we're going to do a lightning quick review of the rules. And so these are the new rules in the Ohio Administrative Code. 4101 is BBS's Ohio Administrative Code Chapter. 7 deals with our certification rules. And then the rules are 1 through 6. We did delete Rule 7, which had to do with the Division of Industrial Compliance and their fees. They are publishing those under their own rules. 7101 is our general rule telling you what you can expect in this rule package. 7102 is our definitions, and that can be really helpful because it gives you the equivalencies between our old new rules and their terminology and the new rule terminology. 7201 is our building department certification rule, and that has been amended kind of extensively. Not just to keep up with statutory changes, but also to make things work with the new certification rule plan. 7-3-01 is the personnel certification rule. That's entirely new because we have all this new terminology. Things work a little bit differently. 73-02 is duties and responsibilities. That's new. That was imported from Chapter 1, Section 104. That chapter, that section still exists in the residential code, but no longer exists in the commercial code. And so we put that here in our rules so that really the rule package can be in one place. People can understand their certifications, their duties and responsibilities, their code of ethics. That's also new, and that replaced a lot of the repetitive language we had in our duties and responsibilities that listed those 5 virtues that one must perform their building department duties with. We instead brought that into a code of ethics, and so now you can find all of the reasons that people need to be ethical in their performance of their duties all in one place. Rule 7304 is our continuing education course approval for external course providers. It is just moved from, it used to be in our certification rule. And then the remainder of the rules were just amended
Hey, I just sent you the
to,
link. You got it? Okay, good. Okay. Okay, good.
can you turn off your mic, please? And then our final rules were just amended to update the system of notification for any type of litigation that may arise out of a denial, to allow for certified mail to be delivered by email and stuff like that. So, questions so far? Hearing none, moving on. So, the problem. All of you know this. In 2014, ICC put out a study called The Future of Code Officials. It predicted retirement of 82% of all present code officials in 2014 by 2029. On my first day at BBS, Steve Rigoli presented me with this existential problem. He told me that by 2024, 50% of BBS's certified personnel would be retired. as you can see from the graph, it's more dire than that. And I'm sure a lot of you would like to retire so long as your building department was sufficiently staffed and able to do the work that the building department needs to do. COVID was obviously a factor in this, in that people had made some decisions that I am done working. I would like to spend my life doing these other things that I've had a chance to do during COVID. But departments were already facing personnel shortages before COVID. And as I said, people are retiring for the third, fourth, fifth time. We are looking at a crisis where we can no longer rely on the old way of bringing in personnel as our only way of bringing in personnel. Our current rules really silo people into specific technical experience. Retiring people hold an average of 5 to 8 certifications, and new certified personnel hold maybe 2 or 3 certifications. We have been receiving a record number of applications over the last 3 years, but if you see this certification imbalance, they still aren't enough to make up for the people who are retiring. And then we have our specific experience requirements in our old rule that mean if you are an electrician, you're not going to qualify for a building inspector certification unless you have a time machine, because you would have to go back to the beginning of your career and spend 5 years doing commercial structural work in order to qualify for that BI. So we knew we needed to change something. Here's the plan. Regina Hanshaw gets all the credit for this. This is a very streamlined plan. The plan is to provide a career path from permit tech to building official, making a code official career accessible to more people. The plan encourages cross-training within departments and across departments, which will allow departments to build their required personnel from within. It provides new pathways to certification, bringing new talents into the code profession. And we do honor the traditional certification paths because we believe the wisdom gained by a lifetime of trades work is a necessary component within the building department, but is not the only way now to become qualified. And so at this point, I'm going to stop presenting so that I can pull up our new matrix. If I can do that. The matrix, I think, describes how differently we're looking at the qualifications for personnel. Share window. We now recognize level 1 administrative permit techs. To obtain certification at this level, you need a high school diploma or equivalent or permit tech certification. It's optional. Departments do not need to have someone on staff who is level 1 permit tech. But becoming certified will open up opportunities for cross-training, for shadowing, to move up in the department to residential code official or to building inspector or building plans examiner trainee. One very important part about this matrix as we proceed through it is to remember that this skill level is illustrative but not comprehensive. We're no longer locked into, oh, if you don't have one of these 5 specific things, you can't get certified. But instead, we can find equivalencies and comparisons to look between these requirements and let people, become certified. And the committee also now has the opportunity to recommend certification at a different level or with different specializations than the person requested originally in their application. And so there is no longer going to be any reason to deny someone. Instead, they may just get an alternative to what they had requested. Level 1 administrative can also be used to certify interns so that you will not have any legal liability issues in terms of letting people shadow or ride in department cars if they are interning with you for the summer or as part of a um, construction projects degree or a code enforcement degree. So the duties of a permit tech of a level 1 would be permit tech or customer service or scheduler or students, as I mentioned, in a code enforcement or code administration program. People do not have to move up the career ladder. They can stay at this level if they want. And so we include in this matrix what they're going to need to do to remain at this level. And so if one wants to be a permit tech for their career, they'll need to take the permit tech certification. But if they want to progress, they would need to demonstrate competency in reading construction documents, plans, and drawings. Shadowing, they would need to spend time shadowing level 2 to 6 inspector or plan reviewer. They need to take an on-site job safety awareness class, take the B1 or B2 test, or take the residential plans examiner or building plans examiner B3 test.
So they would progress them to where?
If they take the B1, they would progress to the residential code official level 2.
Okay.
That's a good question. So
And
this
and
is
so how do they, I guess, how do they, so the on-site job safety awareness course, I mean, they would present that when they could, when they go
yes,
to,
we would want, say, an OSHA 30 or OSHA 10, whatever your department requires, certificate.
to go from level 1 to level 2.
To level 2, because if you're sending people out on the job site to do inspections, they're going to need to know how not to be a danger to themselves or others.
And that would be submitted when they make application to go from level 1 to level 2.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Amy, can you read out the chat questions? Because I don't have that screen up.
Oh, yes. Would the level 1 replace the IPMC for code enforcement officer roles?
IPMC
No.
property maintenance? No. But property maintenance code enforcement person would be able to apply for level 1 or level 2 in order to start gaining building department experience. Okay, what else?
That was the only question.
Okay, great. All right, so let's talk about level 2, residential code official, also commercial trainee. And so we have a variety of different experience that can get you in at level 2, residential code official or commercial trainee, 1 to 4 years of commercial trade experience, or completion of a high school vocational career program or career center in a construction related field, or an associate's degree in a construction related field, or having completed level 1, ability to read construction documents and plans, or level 5, 5 years in skilled trades and residential, or journey person, or equivalent, FSI certificate, fire safety inspector certificate, a bachelor's degree plus 1 to 4 years residential experience, or a residential general contractor. For example, there are other skills that will also fit into this skill level that would have us assign somebody a level 2 residential code official, or commercial trainee. So in a residential department, this person can do all of the roles of a residential building official now. They can do the residential orders, adjudications, approvals, residential plan reviews, and residential building and mechanical inspections. We have added specializations for residential electrical and residential plumbing, which require at least 3 years electrical or plumbing experience, or 3 years training within the department and education. There is a limitation for the electrical residential electrical inspector, and this was the issue that caused us to refile in November after the rules have been final filed. IAEI came to us and said, we do not think that it's safe to have people with only 3 years experience doing complex residential inspections. In fact, we don't think it's safe for them to do inspections at all. A compromise was reached that the limitation is 400 amp service or less and not 3-phase systems. So this isn't the very complex house or mini mansion that has walk-in freezers and an elevator. This is your standard suburban house, or 1, 2, or 3 family dwelling, that has a limited service and not super complex and electrical. To take the exam, to qualify for the residential electrical, people can take either the residential electrical or the commercial examination, just as they can now. We always accept commercial examinations in the place of residential examinations. And now's a good time to point out that the testing that you'll see on this matrix will only apply to people who are obtaining their certifications after July 1. Anyone who holds an interim or trainee right now is required to take the exams that were in effect at the time that they got certified. So let's talk about how residential code officials are also commercial trainees. And this is why you may see on your card RLC, and that's residential code official plus limited commercial. Residential code officials can be designated by a department without having to go through the board to be a trainee in building or mechanical or what have you. And they can be supervised within the department or within another department by agreement or by Safe Build or NIC, as the situation calls for. And they will then be supervised and watched as they develop competency to do the specialization that they're training for. Again, this is going to involve cross-training, shadowing, observation, supervised activities, education.
Meg, Tom has a question.
Okay, Tom, go for it.
These, this level 2, this is my residential building inspectors now.
Mhm.
And so it's to become RBI, there's based on the testing, there's 2 tests you have to take for each one instead of just a singular test.
If they're already RBIs, they're residential code officials and they won't have to take another test.
Right, but I mean, going forward, so
Going
they,
forward,
my
to stay at
brand new RBIs need to take the,
your brand new RCOs will need to
RC
take
or whatever.
these 3 tests.
Okay. It feels like it makes it harder to get people to do residential building inspections.
They have 3 years to get the 3 tests done. The 79, by the way, Amy asked a question about, is energy code compliance, which is not something that we have focused on, and we think that that was a mistake. And so we are now asking that people complete that exam. Yeah, Tom, I agree that it makes it harder to keep people at this level. They do have 3 years to get this done, but they need to demonstrate understanding of the code, and taking the test is still one of the ways of doing that.
Well, no, I understand that. It's just, it's gone from a single test to be, I don't know how many other jurisdictions actually hire people to exclusively do residential building inspections. I would expect that it's most likely it's just the largest of us. But that's a barrier. But all right, I'm just trying to understand it. And it's a
Okay.
huge, yeah, it's a huge barrier. Because we struggle currently, but we'll work through that. Thank you.
That's something that as we continue with the implementation, that, maybe we change our exam list. We don't know all of the hurdles we're going to have created for ourselves until we actually get into the implementation, right?
Mhm.
So I appreciate you bringing that forward, and that's going to be something we'll be looking at as we move forward with the implementation to see, A, does it make sense to require these exams? It kind of does, because they can already inspect building and mechanical, and are supposed to be inspecting energy conservation as well. But I do hear you that it is, tripling the number of tests that they need to take is a burden for a large department, especially one that has difficulty getting people to take the one test.
Well, and my point is that I see that this is it's an excellent feeder process to go from residential to commercial, which is something that I think that we've been talking about for a long time. But even so to go from level 1 to level 2 over here in this far right column, it says, with on-site, yeah, safety awareness, B1 or B2. So
Right.
that's what gets them their interim certification, or I mean,
That's
how does
what
that?
gets them their initial certification as a level 2 residential code official.
Okay. So
Or
if I
a
just tell, all
trainee
right,
for commercial.
is it or and?
And
Okay.
or some departments are commercial only, and so having somebody be a residential code official doesn't help them a lot. So it's and or.
So if I'm a level 1 and I pass the B1 test and I've got this, I took this OSHA course, I can get my initial certification. What if I haven't done any of those things, but I've got 5 years as a tradesman? Then I can
You've got
also get
5,
my level 2?
you get your level 2.
Okay, but either way, at the end, I've got to pass the 3 tests or the 2 NCPCCI tests.
Right? Or be a trainee for a level 3 specialization and take the one test that you need to pass for that level of specialization.
We have 2 questions about documenting the trainee through the portal and the time for trainees.
Okay, go ahead and read them out.
That's just what they were. They just want to know
Okay,
how that they
so
can document.
within the new portal, you will be able to manage my employees where you can designate someone as a trainee for a specialization. And then we will have checklists to document the competencies they've developed, and that'll also be a downloadable job aid for you. And then there'll be a letter that the building official will need, or the supervisor will need to provide stating that the person is ready to, and there'll be actually a walkthrough computer process for it as well, stating this person is ready to be issued the specialization or to receive the next level, depending on what they're applying for. And it can be, we suggest 3 years, but it could be as little as 18 months, or it could be as long as 6 years, depending on, the time that it takes this person to get up to skill level. If we know somebody's training, we're not going to kick them out of the certification process. Clear as mud, right?
Yeah, so like if I bring someone in as a trainee at a level 2 and it's 3 years to get their tests done? Or is it 3 years in the trainee program or
It could be,
I just
they
keep
could
them in
have
there?
3 to 6 years. You could keep them as training.
How,
But they would probably be a level 1 training to become a level 2.
does that allow them to do residential building inspections?
Yes.
So Meg, they'll have an interim then for the 3 years, correct?
Well, it's not going to be called an interim. We've done away with that. It's an initial certification. They have 3 years, and then they can have another 3 years if they're training for something.
And they put that, but in that time, they can perform the duties.
Yes,
Okay. And just to be clear, the guys that I already have on a path for an RBO, I'm gonna keep them on that original path.
correct. Whatever
Okay, thanks.
certification path they were on to begin with, those are the exams they're going to need to take.
Okay, thanks, Meg.
Will you do a quick overview of not having ESI's test first now?
They still have to test first for commercial ESI.
But if they're coming in, just like how we do the loophole for the trainee now.
Ah, yes. Right. So if somebody is an ESI, would qualify right now for an ESI, but they haven't taken their test yet, they'll come in as a commercial trainee for that electrical safety inspector specialization. Until they've passed their test, and they can work while they are preparing and passing their tests.
Oh,
So this streamlines the process that we've had as a two-step process for the last couple of years, where we have qualified people, sent them their letter that they're allowed to take the test, and then they submit a trainee application to be able to work while they're getting ready to take the test. This just makes it a lot easier because you can designate them as electrical safety inspector trainee without without having to go through the board. That's a good call out, Amy. Thank you.
so, okay, so they just come in as a commercial, as a level 2 with
They
an
come in
electric,
and, right, they're coming as a RLC with a trainee in electrical safety inspection, which means also they can do residential inspections.
residential electrical inspections.
They can do all residential inspections,
Okay.
except plumbing. Anybody who qualifies for level 3 limited commercial inspector, or limited commercial plans examiner can do all of the roles in level 2. Except they have to hold specific certification in electrical or plumbing in order to do those inspections. So you no longer have to hold a commercial and a residential certification, which gives you flexibility in assigning people to jobs within your department, Tom, without, requiring making sure that they hold that separate RBI or whatever, if they're a BI.
Okay, so my current RBIs that have 3 years of building, department experience. And then if they take, they just take the B1 test and they're, scroll down a little bit.
They need to take the B2 test,
Okay, yeah, the B2 test, and then they can do commercial building inspections?
commercial building inspections, but not mechanical or
Yeah.
fire or energy, which are our current BIs are being brought over with building, energy, fire, and mechanical. So they have 4 of the 6 specializations at the jump. Your RBIs, they take the B2 test. They can do structural inspections, but they can't do the other things that BIs typically do. Although in a big department like Cleveland, you probably have mechanical inspectors and fire protection inspectors, and you might even have people who specialize in energy conservation inspection.
So that we actually don't, but yeah, I mean, we have, because, because we're unionized too, each of these roles, so the energy and the building are typically together,
Right.
but um, well, I guess, uh, I mean, well, that's interesting. I mean, I guess I'll have to think through that, because there is no energy, right? I mean, if you put the general trades architectural components in place per the plans, that's the building inspector inspects those.
Right.
And then if you put the mechanical systems in place, HVAC systems, per the design documents, the mechanical inspector inspects those.
Right.
So there's really no, I mean, energy and, I don't know. We
Think
wouldn't
of it
need
as
that.
another way to bring somebody into the certifications. They can start with an energy inspector because they were a blower door tester or whatever,
Okay,
and then they can develop their building and their mechanical. And it probably won't be a stretch for them because they've already been dealing with structural and mechanical and insulation, right?
got it. That's helpful.
So
That's,
but it's just another way in for somebody to say, yeah, I've been doing energy conservation work. I've been working on weatherization projects. Right now,
right,
those people don't have a place to come in our certifications. After July 1, they do. Also, housing inspectors, HUD inspectors, can come in at level 2 because that's an equivalency to a lot of this. And it used to be HUD inspectors were rejected. Now they won't be. Also, property maintenance inspectors, people who are, because the whole concept behind this is training people to be good inspectors or plans reviewers or officials, and then teaching them additional technical skills to build their competencies. But not assuming that 5 years in skilled trades and commercial necessarily gives you the competence of being a great inspector. It may, but it may not for everybody. But this is separating out the skills of being a good inspector or plan reviewer from necessarily coming from the trades. Make sense? All right, I'm going to move on here. The specializations, let me point out here, these specializations are equivalent to the many different commercial certifications that we have right now with the addition of energy inspector and energy plans examiner. Building inspector is a specialization, electrical safety inspector, fire protection inspector, mechanical inspector, plumbing inspector, and their component plans examiners are certifications that people hold now. They're just being wrapped under this residential and limited commercial designation. So they're not going to have to maintain 8 or 12 different certifications. They can maintain one and hold as many of these specializations as they hold. If they collect the full set as an inspector or as a plans examiner, they would move up to a combination inspector or a combination plans examiner. They would need to collect all of these, which means for someone who currently is certified because of the way that we are bringing over our building inspectors, if they hold the building inspector, electrical safety inspector, and plumbing inspector, those people are receiving combination inspector certification because building includes energy, fire protection, and mechanical for all of those who are being grandfathered into the new system.
2 questions and a hand raised real quick.
Okay, go ahead. Dwayne.
Yeah, Meg, thank you, ladies, for putting on this presentation today and trying to help explain some of this. I know there's been quite a bit of confusion, but my comment is related to this level 4 that you mentioned, and I guess I'm not really understanding the purpose with. I know the building and the electrical is a requirement, but I didn't see why they added the plumbing inspector. There's a lot of departments that use county health departments that conduct their inspections, and to do that, we are a community that has a municipal plumbing inspector, but it seems like that should have been building inspector and electrical, or building and plumbing, to be able to achieve that level 4. I've been a building inspector for 30 plus years and our electrical 30 plus and building for 26 or longer. And I probably will not pursue a plumbing certification. I don't know, but this doesn't seem to make sense why I wouldn't already qualify for a level 4.
Okay, that's a good question, Dwayne, and there's a couple of answers to that. One answer is that this actually is aligned with ICC's certifications. ICC recognizes a combination commercial inspector that holds plumbing, mechanical, electrical, and building. And so this is to line up with ICC's certification. The other thing is that a combination inspector should be somebody that you could send out one person to do all scopes of work in a project. That's what a combination inspector is meant to do. Or one person to oversee the installation of a water heater, if you think about that. Because right now actually requires electrical, mechanical, and plumbing, right? But
Yes, that is correct. I just, but for departments that it wouldn't even perform the plumbing inspections, like I said, that being held by a public health department, then they would still have that issue regardless. So I mean, it seems to be only impacting those communities that specifically have a municipal plumbing inspector.
And I don't disagree with you, Dwayne, but if we get back into my other presentation, I'm going to talk about the ways that people can cross-train, which I think is going to foster greater cooperation between health departments and building departments and bring everybody into the realm of doing code enforcement per Chapter 1. So I think ultimately getting those plumbing inspection credentials, even if you can't use them in your current county position, maybe you move to another jurisdiction where the municipality is certified to do plumbing and you're qualified to do so.
Thank you for your explanation and in your presentation today.
Thanks, Dwayne. All right, Amy, what are the other ones?
Let's see, I gotta go back and find them. Under the new matrix, can a current RBI do mechanical replacement and verify its related electrical?
Yes, because the RBI is now a residential code official, not the related electrical. The related electrical is still going to need to be an ESI or a residential electrical specialization. But residential code official can do residential building and mechanical inspections, plan reviews, and issue orders and adjudications and approvals.
And then am I correct to say when a fully certified BI with supplemental training in electrical and plumbing can now inspect those residential disciplines?
Yes, once they obtain the specializations. And that may just be documenting electrical or plumbing experience and taking the test. Or that may be training within the department and a sign off that you have achieved the competency and then and take the test and you're issued the specialization. Okay, I see.
Question from Miss Alex.
Go for it, Alex.
Hi Meg, it's Alex Wakefield.
Hey, Alex.
How you doing?
Good.
I have a question about backtracking to the trainee position. And currently the supervisor can only supervise 2 people. Is that going to stay the same where we only can do 2 people, or are we able to do more?
You're able to do more.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, there are no limits on the number of trainees that a supervisor can supervise, and that specifically relates to programs like Cincinnati's trainee program, where they have, say, a class of 17 now, they can all be training at the same time under one supervisor rather than having to have one supervisor per each 2 trainees. All right, JD, Josh Doolin, go.
I just had a question reference the fire protection inspector. So I've held my fire protection inspector for several years, and I was in the process. I just purchased the test for the fire protection plans examiner. I guess what would be the next route for me on that?
Okay, so you've got the fire protection inspector, take the fire protection plans examiner exam. And then if you want to build plans examiners, you could start training for building plans examiner, which I think would be the natural next test for you to take. Or if you want to do more inspections, you like being out in the field, start training for the building inspector. You've been in the department as a fire protection inspector. You qualify to come in to train for your building inspector.
So I'm on the fire side, so I stay in the fire service. So taking the CP test through ICC, does it give me anything for the fire protection plans examiner with the new certifications?
Absolutely. Yeah. You'll get a specialization for fire protection plans examiner. Complete that CP test.
And then I would stay a level 3 from the new certifications.
You'd stay as a level 3 residential and limited commercial.
Okay, thank you.
But if you retire from the fire service and you wanted to go work in a residential department, you could do all of the residential work except electrical and plumbing.
Now, on the new certifications, do you still have to take the Building Code Academy since it's been like 5 years since I've taken it, or 7 years?
Not for specializations, just when you're changing levels.
All right, thank you.
Tom Vanover.
Okay, so that's interesting. So, currently, so back to the fire protection inspector, previously building inspectors could also do do that work
Right.
without ever being, an FSI.
And that is still the case for anybody who is grandfathered in.
But all of my folks well, the RBIs that I'm hoping to push to become BIs, they'll never be able to do fire protection inspections?
No, they're going to need to build the competency to do that.
And how does?
They're
one
not
do-
limited by experience of having been an FSI. Now, they get in and they're doing building inspector, and you start training them on doing the fire protection inspections, the sprinklers and the alarm systems and how they're tested and all that. And then they take the test, say the 3B, and then they also hold their fire protection specialization.
Right, so while they're as building inspectors, they have to accompany an FSI for 150 inspections?
Nope. No, they just need to, that's the beginning if somebody was coming new into the system. If they are, if they have been an RBI and they've trained and developed competencies to level up to level 3 and building inspector, then you could say, okay, we're going to designate you as a fire protection inspector trainee. And so while you're out on their jobs, I'm going to make sure the fire protection inspector's there with you so you can see what they're doing and they can talk to you about what they're seeing. And then they take the test and then they hold the specialization.
So do I have to then somehow report their 150?
No, they don't have to do 150.
Oh, so
They
they
have
just,
to develop the competency. That 150 is somebody who is coming in brand new.
okay, so if they're level 3, so like right now, all of my building inspectors, like whatever, 40 building inspectors are
Right.
all level 3s with the building inspector specialization.
Well, they're all level 3s with the building inspector, energy conservation inspector, fire protection inspector, and mechanical inspector
Okay.
specializations.
And so those all came over. So if I
Right.
get somebody that next month becomes, they work for me as an RBI now. And next they take their B2 test and they come and become a level 3.
Right.
And they're working as a building inspector, they can also take their CF and CA tests?
They can, but they probably also need to be training with somebody who can explain to them what they're looking at for fire protection inspection, which they would have to anyway. Whenever you jump somebody up from RBI to BI, there's a learning curve, right?
Correct. So
So-
yeah, so they'll be training because
They'll
they
be
got
training
these.
for mechanical and energy and fire protection while they're doing the work of the building inspector.
Correct. And then within their 3 years, right, there's not. Well, I guess it's not.
They don't have to do it. They don't have to train for 3 years. It could be a year. It could be 18 months. Whenever they demonstrate the competency to hold that specialization, they can request that they be granted that specialization.
Books, okay, so how does it go to, I mean, but what is I know they're not called interims anymore, but how long?
Your initial certification is 3 years in which you need to complete the 1 or 2 or 3 tests that are required for that certification.
Okay, All right, and then, so, yeah, because what I'm gonna have is, I mean, next month, I'm gonna have all of my RBIs applying for something.
Right?
And they're coming to me for a promotion and more money because the state of Ohio said I can do this now. But there's still 3 years that they have to test and they have to finish. Or they go, are they lose their level 3?
They would be reverted to level 2.
Okay.
That's a good question. Yes, our rules do provide that if somebody has failed within that 3 years to complete the requirements of the initial certification, they can be dropped a level and remain certified.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
One, does experience completing commercial building inspections count as experience needed for level 3 building plans examiner?
Yes.
And then Chris wants to, can we discuss job description changes at the jurisdiction level for HR people on the call?
Yeah, we can, with the caveat that BBS is not going to tell you what you should do or how you should navigate this. But simply, I would reiterate that level 3 limited commercial with specializations, these specializations are essentially equivalent to the certifications that people hold now. And so that should be, there may be some language changes that you need to do, and you can find the language at our certification website. Amy, do you want to throw that in the chat again? The one Regina sent us this morning.
Yes.
So it may require some language changes, but the duties and responsibilities are going to be fairly equivalent. This gives you more flexibility to build within, but if you're a jurisdiction that pays per certification, since there's only 6 certifications possible now, or 7 with MedGas, you may need to look at that and think about a different way. Maybe it's per specialization that the pay increases are cued into. Chris, did that address or did I would be happy to have people sort of talk about how they're doing this in their jurisdictions, and I'd be as interested as anybody else to listen to that.
2 quick questions.
Mhm.
If someone is trying to come in as a new level 3 building plans examiner who is currently working as architect or engineer, do they need 3 years of experience in that role plus the B3 exam?
They will have 3 years to obtain the B3 exam, but they'll need to have the experience to qualify them to come in as a level 3 building plans examiner.
If someone failed the initial 3 years in the trainee, they revert back to the previous level, can the person redo the trainee program?
Absolutely.
That's it.
We, we've designed this to try to keep people in, not kick people out. Now, a note about level 4, by the way. Combination plans examiner. Architects and engineers who are registered can come in directly at the level 4 combination plans examiner. And in that way, it is a replacement for our master plans examiner that we have now. However, people who would not qualify now for master plans examiner because they don't have that architect or engineer degree plus registration can also qualify as combination plans examiner. So we are removing the educational barrier that was in existence up to this point. We have heard some mixed opinions about this, and we understand that not everybody will be happy about this, but we do think that this offers an opportunity for some people who were born plans examiners but didn't have that option to go to college and get that degree at the time that they, you know, would have needed to in order to have the 5 years of registration under our master plans examiner now. Chris, I'm going to return to you and have you kick off the discussion. What's your HR department doing?
Well, we're still talking about it, but we're looking at changing our job descriptions from specialty inspectors like a building inspector, plumbing inspector, to just an inspector with the endorsements. And then we would have 3 levels. We're kind of looking at right now, looking at 3 levels of that. So the first one would be an inspector, whatever endorsement you have. And then as you gain endorsements, you can go up to level 2, and then level 3 would be the top.
And level 3 would be like a level 4 combination inspector?
Yes.
Okay. Tom, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so as currently I'm a building official, so it's a commercial, that's a level 5. So as I'm gathering endorsements, I never have to go to the Code Academy again?
Well, you're a level 5 commercial building official, and you're also a level 3 limited commercial inspector or plans examiner. I think you have both of those, right?
Yeah.
While you're gathering specializations, you don't have to go to Code Academy, but remember, we are still requiring 3 hours of Chapter 1 instruction and 3 hours of existing building instruction and 1 hour of ethics for everyone at their renewals.
Oh, gotcha.
Three
So-
questions.
Yes.
If a registered design professional comes into a level 4, would they need all tests beforehand? And how long do they have to complete the exams? Also, it was previously 4 exams for MBE. Now is it 6?
It's going to be 6 years for combination inspector, plans examiner. They will have 3 years to complete all of their exams. Anybody who comes in new has to complete Code Academy. But they don't have to come in with the tests already completed. They can come in and take their tests over that 3-year period.
No, that was another level 4, specifically what tests are all. Are you going to cover the new portal?
Am I going to cover the new portal? Oh, I appreciate you asking that. Let me go get it pulled up because I think they probably kicked me out. Okay, they didn't. Let me stop sharing my screen and share another screen. All right, can you all see this? Oh, it did kick me out. Any questions while I'm signing in here?
Hey, Meg, maybe I missed it if you said it, but will the permit techs be required to do continuing education?
Anybody who is certified is going to be required to do continuing education.
Thank you.
This question is building official levels said to keep cert. You have to manage the department. What if you have a BO but do not manage the department?
Okay, that's a good question. Let me pull back up that language just to look at it. All right, this is back office. It's not what you guys need to see. Let me show you what it's going to look like for our users. Okay. The building official, those are the duties. That's not, you can maintain your building official without performing those duties. To complete your building official as now would require the building codes and standards test, the management and the legal module. And we will require that building codes and standards test to apply for a level 5 building official. Because one of the big issues that Debbie Oler raised when we were working on these rules is she did not want somebody who didn't know all the codes bossing around plans examiners who did know all the codes. So that BCS test is required to apply for this level. And then the other exams can be completed within the 3-year period. And then we want building officials to have taken these 3 classes, which are available online within a month of getting the certification, and Code Academy within 9 months of the certification. We are working on getting together a online on-demand Code Academy so that our schedule will not be a barrier to people completing Code Academy. All right, so let's talk about the new portal. And this is cool. We are working on user acceptance testing right now. We had a kickoff on Monday and Tuesday where we did 6 hours of classes on how to navigate through this and what we were working on. But this is what you as an end user, what you're going to see. You're going to see my licenses. And then you'll be able to apply for new licenses, certifications, or specializations here. Let's see. Also, building departments. Oops, not Board of Building Appeals. We'll go through here and Med Gas. And it's going to walk you through putting in your information, assigning your initial personnel, et cetera, but it's going to be a fully online process and it'll take you through each step step by step, and you'll see it'll show you here in your little map where you are. You're putting in the contact information, jurisdiction information, filling out the paperwork for commercial certification, then for residential certification, then swearing that yes, you have the right to apply for this, submitting the application, and receiving a screen that says submitted successfully.
So what are we looking at there? That's the,
What?
never mind.
Oh, did you want me to go back to what are we
Yeah,
looking
I
at?
just wasn't sure. I mean, there was just, I wasn't sure what you even did there, what screen that was. I mean.
That was an application for a new building department. Most building departments are in fact going to be using this in a different way. They'll be able to pay their their monthly assessments online through a service request. They'll be able to download their certificates. And they'll be able to manage their employees to designate somebody is in a new role or somebody is training for a new specialization.
So does that require, does this all start with the OHID?
It's going to all start with the OHID, and it's going to all start with building departments telling us who they want their initial authorized user to be so that we can manually go in and designate them and link you to your accounts.
Okay, so is the OHID going to allow, the problem is that if we, as building officials, currently have an OHID for other purpose, for personal purposes,
Mhm.
it will link our government I mean, that you can't have more than one.
That's a problem that we're trying to work through.
And yeah, and I mean, I don't want my personal
Stuff
OHID,
linked to
yeah,
your commercial, to your
my
business,
professional.
right?
Yeah,
That's an issue. I'm not gonna lie, that's something that we're going to need to work through with the OHID people.
and that's within the next,
Within the next
what-
3 weeks.
yeah,
Yes.
all right, yeah, that's all right. We got 24 days to get that done?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'll sleep after after August 15th, Tom. Okay, I see a hand up.
It's a
Yeah,
question. Oh, go ahead.
well, I had the same question about the multiple Ohio ID accounts and how they can, not only how they are separated between individual accounts, but how would they be separated between the individual building department personnel and the building department as its own entity?
Building departments will have their own accounts with authorized users, which will be separate from the personnel information for that individual person. So if we go back to my dashboard, you can see that I am an authorized user for several building departments, and I also have person accounts for fire protection system designer and med gas inspector. So people who are not designated as authorized users for that building department won't be able to get in and muck around with the building department account. That's only going to be specific people within your agency.
So who will have the authority to designate those people?
Well, so we're going to be putting out a survey that we hope you all will answer quickly and diligently, asking people to tell us who your initial authorized person will be to get that account. And then to establish the link to that building department account. And then we'll be able to designate additional people after that, but we'll need that one person that we manually attach to that account in order to get that linked up.
Hey, Meg, we got some of the same questions. Can we talk about how, well, like, so for instance, the continuing education, that's not available yet. What's available at the moment, what's going to be built in? And also I'm putting in here for everyone to always just view the website. Regina is doing a great job about constantly putting updates on there for links and what's going to be available.
Okay, what is going to be available on day one? Linking to your personal certification account will be available on day one. Day one is scheduled to be July 1. That may get pushed a week. We are essentially putting the plane together as it's rolling down the runway. So it's possible that we may get pushed a week in terms of our rollout. So personnel, your certification account will be available day one. Applying for new certifications or specializations should be available on day one. Continuing education, applications for course approval will not be available on day one. That's going to need to come to us through our web form as it does now, and then we'll manually put that in from the back office. Assessments, paying assessments should be available on day one. Associating people to your department should be available on day one. In fact, that's going to be one of the necessary steps that building departments do as they claim their account. They're going to need to associate their personnel, all of the required roles, building official, combination plans examiners, or multiple plans examiners who together fill the role of combination plans examiner, inspectors, in building and electrical and fire, energy, mechanical, and plumbing. And so we will need you to get in there and start doing that. And that's going to be one of the ways that we measure adoption of our new system is by seeing how many people are claiming their accounts as we go through the summer. What else is going to be? So applications of all kind will be available day one. Continuing education where your classes will show up within your certification record is going to be available in the fall. And continuing education providers uploading their attendance rosters into the program so that they will then slot into the attendees' accounts. That will also be available in the fall. Did I miss anything, Amy?
Will you send survey to local health departments too?
Will we send the survey? Local health departments won't have accounts
And then
within
oh yeah,
BBS.
sorry.
Go ahead.
That's what I thought. But then do building department employee need to create their own online portal account? Wait,
Personnel will need to create their Ohio ID and link into their certification account.
So do we have, does the building department then have to add them individually? Are we adding them to our account as well?
The building department will be associating their employees with the building department.
After
So
they create their accounts?
actually that can happen even beforehand.
Okay.
Because you're going to go here, service request. Say manage my employees. This isn't working yet, but it will be working soon. So this is the building department. I'm working on getting this to reflect the name of the building department, not just building department. They like numbers in computer world, and we very much prefer names. So we're going to move to manage my employees. And this is going to, so here that I put somebody in here already. This is an affiliation that already exists. This person, CCO, comprehensive code official, 001321, and that's somebody's actual BBS number right now. 1321, that's somebody who exists in our system now. Your certification ID will be the same 4, 3, 4, 5, 1 through 5 digit number that it is now. So Lorenzo Adam is still 000001. Any certifications that you hold, they'll have different prefixes: CCO, CBO, Commercial Building Official, CE, Comprehensive Combination Plans Examiner, CI, Combination Inspector, RLC, residential and limited commercial, or A, administrative.
So I get different numbers with different prefixes for my different licenses, so when,
You'll
as a
have the
building department,
same number, you'll have the same number, but different prefixes for your
Okay.
RLC and your CBO.
so with people with multiple prefixes, I've got to put them in multiple times?
Yes.
And other than just having a place to track all the stuff, what other functions does the building department have using this portal? I mean, why would I even do it?
Because you're required to maintain a current staff listing with BBS, A. B, it's going to put in your information that will then be gathered into your yearly operational report for you. So it's not going to be as much of a hassle to compile those, and that's going to be a function that, again, is available later, but not available right now. Renewals will be available as of the first of the year. People will start to renew in March. You'll receive emails from the system telling you that you need to renew. But building departments, you can pay your assessments online. And pay through ACH rather than having to fill out a form, print it out, mail it out with a check. And you'll have the option to create an invoice if that's what your finance department needs in order to pay your monthly assessments.
Okay.
It's going to be one day of a lot of work. And then I think it'll be very easy to use it thereafter and you'll also use it to designate people as trainees. So it's going to facilitate that you're designating this person as a trainee in this new specialization. It's going to facilitate you being able to track who you're training and then upload when they have completed their competencies and they're ready to hold the specialization. That's a free process, by the way. Specializations do not cost money. And so we have actually cut down a lot the amount of money that people need to pay us for initial and renewal applications.
All right, I guess my other concern is, it's not probably as different, it's different in the smaller jurisdictions. Those functions that are now going through this portal, that's 5 different departments at the City of Cleveland.
Okay.
5 different directors, 5 different buildings, right? So how we set up that OHID question is going to be important because there should be the building department, or the city should be able to have, or the building department should be able to have its ID that's independent of persons
I
entirely.
agree.
Because I've got civil service has to do work in there. I've got finance that has to do work in there. I have our independent HR department that has to do work in there. I have to do work in there.
You're not wrong. I agree.
It's just a lot of work putting it in and maintaining another website.
Yes, it's a lot of work. Most of it's just going to be an initial, blast of work. And then it should be fairly easy to maintain from that point on. But I agree that City of Cleveland Building Department ought to be able to get its own Ohio ID account. And that's not something that is feasible through Ohio ID at this moment. So what my answer to you, Tom, is going to be is that you're going to need to designate people from those departments, all of whom need to work in this database, as authorized users And then they will need to know what their area of responsibility is and not overstep those bounds to mess with anybody else's areas of responsibility. So say Lily Vigiusi is going to be maintaining the personnel list, right? For example, she's not going to try to enter yearly operational reports or assessments. And
Well, yeah, and well, Lily actually works for the department. It's the others, the other, departments, the actual human resources and personnel. I mean, it just like, yeah, just like you don't get to tell the folks that Ohio ID has to let the building department have their own account. I don't get to go and tell all the other directors and all the other, commissioners what, they have to do in order for us to maintain. So it's gonna be, we're not talking about just, yelling across the hall to somebody that does multiple things. So we'll have to see, to be determined, but thank you. I mean, the explanation is helpful. But I
Okay.
just don't.
We understand that this is not necessarily going to be pain-free. We are here, we are training to get things ready for you so that we can help to alleviate some of that pain as people are walking through this rollout. But we recognize that everything is changing and that's a big stress point for everybody. And we can only pledge to be as available and as knowledgeable as possible so that we can help you through this process of transitioning. Okay, go for it. I see the hand up.
Just one other item on the Ohio ID accounts. I think we're recognizing the best situation would be separate accounts between offices and individuals. The other side of it is, do you foresee the ability to create separate Ohio ID accounts based upon associated jobs, whether it be individual or working for multiple state agencies? I was trying to wrap my head around even how to get associated with Ohio ID from multiple fronts.
I am not an expert in Ohio ID, and I wish I was. So I think I need to probably spend some time learning that because obviously this is going to be a big process for everybody.
Megan, this is Sherry from the Washington County Health Department.
Hey, Sherry.
How are you? The Ohio Department of Health just launched and did the same thing with Ohio ID for a large grant management system. I will say it has been unbearable, impossible to have two IDs. So please spend a great deal of time resolving this because there will be headaches beyond belief. We're still dealing with them months later. So don't take lightly Ohio ID. It is not one state, one ID.
Thank you very much for that perspective, Sherry. I appreciate that.
Good luck to all.
And I would reiterate that from my perspective, dealing with multiple state agencies.
So hopefully we'll get some, some feedback, because adaptability from your end, and adaptability, anytime you launch, I've done a lot of these technology and software launches. Adaptability is everything, right? If people don't adopt it, then it doesn't function. And so we'll have to see how that works, because I just simply will not attach my
Your personal to your business, right?
If that's the case, I just won't sign up and see how that, we'll have to figure that out.
Let me iterate. I'm in Ohio ID now on my other agency account, and it knows where I'm at, what device I'm logged in on, how long I'm logged in for. Just there's a ton of security concerns associated with this.
Okay. Wow. This is really helpful to me. I appreciate all of your perspectives on the Ohio ID issues, and that's something that we will be talking with our Department of Administrative Services people about. Excuse me. After this conversation. So I'm going to stop sharing the program right now, and maybe we'll return to my presentation, unless there are more questions or there's something else you all want to talk about.
There's a really good question in the chat.
Go for it. What is it?
It's from Alex. I'm thinking that most inspectors in my department will not go to level 4 and stay to level 3. We currently require someone fully certified to hold their RBO ESI BI. Our thought process is they will apply for the initial level 2, then get the specialization for ESI, become a trainee for building energy FPI mechanical, assuming passing those exams should suffice the residential exams, and they will need to take and pass the full B2 E277 CE, CF, and CA, or the 3B, all this, totaling the 6 exams.
Right.
Is this the most efficient and logical way to be fully certified in our department for the inspectors?
Okay, so first of all, I would say, Alex, that right now you require the RBO, BI, and ESI. Your BIs will come over with mechanical energy and fire protection, and then they also have to take that electrical safety inspection. So they'll have 5 of the 6 specializations starting out with, and will be able to do their RBO work without maintaining a separate certification for that. I'd say, yeah, right now, those people would need to take the B2, the M2, and the E2 in order to complete all of this. And anyone who's grandfathered in, that's what they're going to have to take. If they are newly certified after July 1, they'll need to take the B2, the E2, the M2, and the B2 and the M2 cover the fire protection, so we would grandfather that in, and then the ICC energy inspector exam. So it's just going to be one additional test.
Sorry, Meg, it's Alex. So to understand you correctly, I'm mainly referencing for new people coming into my department.
Right.
So they would have to take the B2 and the M2. You said that covers the energy, or they have to
that covers
take
the fire. That covers the fire. They'll have to
B2,
take
M2 covers the fire, so it's not required to have the FPI for them to do the fire inspections, just if they want to specialize in fire at some point.
Right, right.
Okay. And then, so they would only require B2, M2, ESI, and then they have to do the energy. So that one is required, not the FPI.
That's going to be required, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Okay, cool. Jerry.
Jerry.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Hey,
Loud
my
and clear.
mic finally works. Hey, great presentation today. A lot of great information. Quick question for you. Can you maybe summarize or give some kind of an idea of what type of training? Just pick one certification. Maybe it's a building inspector, a plans examiner. What type of training are you looking for regarding these trainers in the certified building departments for these upcoming folks in our industry?
Okay, so what are we looking for people to train the new people on? Is that what your question is?
Yes, maybe just give me a summary of what you're looking for at the board level.
Okay, well, let me actually let me pull up something.
Okay.
Because we actually have been working a lot on this right now of sort of developing a list of competencies that's kind of like a checklist.
Okay.
And that progresses from start to finish, and that'll be available as a job aid. If I can find it. All right, so let's start with building. Uh-oh. Let's just start with building. For building, we would want to see experience in footers and foundations, in framing, steel or wood or both. And we want to see, all phases of a project that somebody has experience, watching, shadowing, and they have experience doing supervised inspections on all of those things. And then they have experience of doing independent inspections, but maybe being spot checked later. And that once somebody develops the competency in one of those things, they can be sent out on their own to do footers all day long. But that list builds on itself to reach, from the simplest to the most complex. None of it's unimportant, but there are things that are conceptually more difficult. And so we hope that we will have the aid of all of you in developing those lists so that the step-by-step process makes sense.
So would the building official then put together a narrative of all of this experience, this compilation of all this experience, and then submit that to the VBS along with the trainees' particular requests to advance to another certification? Is that the way that I
The
guess I understand it?
supervisor would mark through the competencies that the person has completed and make a recommendation or not that they should be obtain the specialization or the next certification level. Building official would then, probably include a letter of recommendation on that, and the trainee themselves would put together probably at least a compilation of the number of inspections they've done and the types of things that they did on those inspections, which isn't a lot different than what we require now. But it does require some record keeping, and there would be some education that they would need to take. They'll have to show records of doing that, Code Academy if it's required for them in that particular instance. And then that all gets submitted, like sort of compiled and submitted to the board through the program.
Okay, great. Good information. Thanks, Meg.
Okay.
Through the program, you mean through the portal?
Through the portal, yes.
So every one of my employees is also going to need an OHID.
Yes. In order to connect with their accounts, they're all going to need OHIDs. Yeah.
Had a question about the industrialized unit inspectors.
Okay, yes. Go ahead.
We understand that the non-residential and residential certifications are no longer, and you must be classified as one of the new inspection levels for third-party inspection agencies, correct?
No. Excuse me. For third-party agencies who do third-party inspections on industrialized units, they now no longer have to be certified through the Board of Building Standards at all. They can hold the ICC combination inspector and maintain that and be authorized to do the inspections in their location. If they choose to hold our certification, they need to hold the combination inspector if they want to have all of the rights and privileges of the previous non-residential industrialized unit inspector, and people who hold a level 3 residential and limited commercial with specializations can inspect to the specializations they're qualified to inspect. So if you are qualified to inspect building, electrical and mechanical and energy and fire, but not plumbing, you could inspect all of those. If you hold your combination, you could inspect all of it. And that's just for third-party inspectors in the factory where the industrialized units are being built. Obviously, the site work that is done when an industrialized unit is installed, that requires people holding BBS certifications to the extent that the connections need to be checked and inspected and tested, made sure that everything's working, because it's closed construction coming in to a local site. The local jurisdiction is responsible for all of that local site work. Another question in the chat?
No, he just wants to know that how BBS is going to track this, and we're not, right?
That's up to Jay Richards. They did a bunch of changes in their IU rules. Those went live on April 1st for the most part. And so I think that manufacturers actually report who is doing the work of their third-party inspections now. Okay, more Ohio ID questions. How do I get Ohio IDs for my employees? Everybody's going to have to go through the process of establishing their Ohio IDs, but again, I will talk with DAS about this, and I don't know that they foresaw that this would be as much of an issue as it sounds like everybody thinks it will be. Is there another question, Amy?
Yeah, so for plan review, can a third party provide plan review now?
No. We have a pilot project where departments are providing plan review for IUs within their jurisdictions. I want to say New Albany is part of that, Mike Barica, but that is not yet the case that it is not the case that third-party plan reviewers are that's a thing in Ohio. It may be a case that building departments, the jurisdictions where the IUs are planning to come in, may become authorized to do IU plan review. And again, that's a pilot project right now. More questions?
Where do I go for the Ohio ID? Do they just need to wait till the website's wait till the portal?
I can put up a link to the process of establishing an Ohio ID. There is a job, there's a job aid. ID, how to, let's see.
And do departments still need backups?
Absolutely, departments will still need backups. They will need, a primary and a backup for each role that they're required to fill. All right, back. All right. I am putting in the chat the State of Ohio's website on Ohio ID. All right. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'm going to give you back 15 minutes. Thank you all. This has been a great discussion. I really appreciate having you on here and what you're thinking about and the issues that you're facing. Didn't get through my presentation, but I think this was a very important conversation for all of us to have. So again, thank you for your time this morning. And we'll be doing another presentation on June 20th to discuss certification some more and do a little more previewing of the new portal. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.